Well, it's Chris Hill and Mark Ashcroft, aka Senior Mash, in the Clubhouse, talking Rugby Union, something we thoroughly enjoy doing. And thank you to all those of you that are subscribing, are liking, adding comments. We really, really do appreciate that. And thanks to all of you that are on social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Without you, our lives would be a lot more difficult. So big thanks, and let's crack on and get Chris to tell us a little bit about what he's expecting from National League Rugby this week.
Well, in your lovely background, Mark, you can see the sun is shining, and it is shining on National League Rugby as well, with the final month of the season, some big games to look forward to, with titles to be decided, relegation scraps to kind of be resolved as well. I think sort of looking ahead to round 23, which is this weekend, Mark, a big game in National 2 North, a league we both know well. Some clubhouses we know very well there. Harrogate taking on Hull, which is a battle of the bottom two, and I think it's just 4 points separate the bottom. 6 points separate the bottom four sides. So I think the relegation fight in that league might go right down to the wire this season. And then up in National 2 West, a real title showdown between Camborne and Clifton at Clifton this weekend, 1 point separating the top two teams. So that will be a really good game over in Bristol. Expect Station Road to be packed out for that one. I know the club are doing some really good stuff on social media around that, which is fantastic to see. And then in National 1, Richmond could be the team closing in on the title. It could be this weekend. It could be next weekend. They took a massive step towards that just before the break we had at the end of March with a good win against Sedge. You know, we do have a bit of a soft spot for Sedge, Mark, so it's a little bit painful to say, but Richmond's really putting the foot down at this time of the season and can win the league over the next couple of weeks. So that's pretty much what I'd look out for, certainly this weekend in National League Rugby. But as ever, as we know, Mark, so many good narratives to look forward to. Yeah.
Look, and I think I got a comment from Dave Brearley about the Richmond Sedge game, and he just felt that Richmond turned the acceleration. They became quicker, they became stronger, and Sedge just couldn't live with them. And you know, that's from a die-hard Sedge fan. So they obviously put in a big performance. And if they keep doing that, you know, they can go all the way. I'm sure of that. I think Sedge have got Rosslyn Park this week, which, you know, it's one of those games that Sedge could surprise everybody, but equally, Rosslyn Park's still in the fight. So we could see some fireworks there again. So one to keep an eye on. National 2 North, should I be worried about my friends at Preston Grasshoppers?
That's of course a very good point, Mark. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. I know you've been busy on your travels, but Dan Orwin, the head coach, did something with BBC Radio Lancashire the other week, and he was basically saying, look, we're really frustrated to be in this position. I think it's 5 defeats in a row now. They've been sucked into this relegation fight because those around them have picked up wins like your Billinghams and Harrogates we mentioned before. So, you know, if you're a Preston fan, it's not going to be kind of a serene end to the season. You need, you know, I think they've got 2 of the last 3 games are away from home as well. So it won't be easy for them, especially when you've got Harrogate and Billingham picking up form picking up form now when it matters most. So yeah, I've Preston right in it, Mark. And I know, you know, as you said there, we've got some affiliation with them as well through talking Rugby Union. But yeah, they're going to be in a bit of a fight over the next 4 weeks or so. Absolutely.
Well, one for us to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I need to have a trip to Lightfoot Lane.
Yes. Maybe your presence, Mark, can turn their fortunes around. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't think Garth Dew and Alex Key would quite agree with that, but you know, let's play it by ear. Now, you've been recording the National League Rugby Review show. So, what should everybody look forward to tomorrow on that show?
Yes, so obviously as we say here, Mark, we're recording on Wednesday evening, and looking forward to return of it on Thursday evening over here in the UK. In National 1, we will be kind of wrapping up all the talking points in terms of the title race with Richmond, and looking at the battle of the bottom as well with Leicester, Lions and Esher. We actually have just come off a call with Dan Scarborough. People may know him from his England days, Saracens days as well. He's now the head coach of Harrogate, and of course, as we said, they've got that big game against Hull this weekend, so we're going to be focusing on them in National 2 North. We spoke to Henley Hawks in National 2 East. Now, they are currently a mid-table side, but they do welcome league leaders Tunbridge Judians to their place on Saturday, so that's kind of a narrative, and Henley have had kind of an ability to pick off some of the top teams this season, so that will be one to look forward to. So we caught up with Henley, and in National 2 West we focused on Clifton versus Camborne. We managed to speak to Luke Cosens and Marcus Nell of Clifton. Obviously, they're hosting Camborne this weekend, 1 point behind them in the table. So really looking forward to that game. Should be a really cracking contest in Bristol. And we're also actually with Luttonians as well, one of the more unique clubhouses in National League Rugby, and they're taking on Exeter University this weekend. Not the season Ryan Watkins and Luttonians would have wanted this time around, but they're looking to end it strongly with 2 home games to come. So a packed show, Mark, to kick off April. I hope I haven't rambled on too much, but as I said before, plenty to look forward to and cover over the next 4 weeks.
So you can watch National League Rugby Review Show via the website, on YouTube, and then there's highlights packages on Instagram and wherever you get your social media from. So it's well worth a watch. So, Chris, I hear you when you talk about social media. So I recorded some very interesting thoughts, or I think they're very interesting thoughts about social media and rugby clubs. So let's have a look at that, and then we'll come back and talk about rugby more generally.
Well, I think you know by now I'm passionate about helping the cause of rugby union. And when I look at rugby union clubs looking to boost excitement and engagement surrounding their upcoming games, I do feel they can use and leverage social media a little better than they currently do. They could reach a wider audience and create a buzz. Let's face it, the digital landscape is evolving very rapidly, harnessing the potential of platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok can be a game changer in promoting matches and connecting fans. And we can do that in new and innovative ways. So rugby clubs need to think about this. And Sedge Media, their live stream on YouTube, classic example. But some of the use of social media, outstanding. Massive credit to Chris Heal and Max Scoffich for what they're doing with the National League Rugby Review Show. They're using YouTube, they're using Instagram, and their engagement with fans is brilliant from what I can see. You've got to have a social media plan. Don't like to use the word strategy, but let's call it a plan. So you've got to be thinking about pre-game, during the game, and post-game content. That way you can keep fans engaged throughout the week, the entire match. So, for instance, clubs can tease upcoming matchups by showing snippets from previous matchups between the clubs, little video snippets. Maybe do a behind-the-scenes glimpse. Maybe talk to a few of the supporters, record it in the clubhouse. During the game, clubs can provide real-time updates, scores, highlights on social media. Fans can't always make games, but they like to keep updated. I do like live tweeting, but you do need, as a club, you need somebody that's able to do that and do it regularly and in a very healthy way. I've seen some clubs doing Q&A sessions with their coaches, again, recording it, showing it on Instagram. That is very, very good. And it does enhance, for me as a fan, my overall experience. Post-game, rugby clubs can really capitalise on the momentum by sharing match recaps, player interviews, maybe some fan reactions to keep that conversation going after the final whistle. Encourage fans to share their experiences their photographs, their thoughts on social media. That can further amplify the reach of the club's content and foster a sense of community amongst the supporters. In addition to organic content, let's face it, rugby clubs can and probably should be exploring paid social media advertising to target specific demographics, particularly to promote ticket sales and give you that increased visibility of upcoming games. Platforms like Facebook and Instagram really do offer very robust targeting options that will allow clubs to reach both existing and new fans. And potentially that's a whole new audience. So I would suggest by harnessing the power of social media, rugby clubs have a valuable opportunity to connect with fans, build excitement around upcoming games, and create a lasting impact that extends far beyond the field. So, just some thoughts, but rugby clubs can engage with fans, can encourage new engagement. So, good luck. Any comments, put them down below. Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Well, Chris, I hope rugby clubs get some sort of benefit from my thoughts about social media. It was good that you mentioned Camborne, Clifton. Both clubs, I think, use social media very well. And if they could do 2,000 people this Saturday at the ground watching National League Rugby, that would be some achievement. So I would encourage you, if you're in the Bristol area, go down and have a look at them. Well worth it. And that leads me on to a completely different subject, Chris. And we're able to do this because we're quite irreverent about what we talk about on this in the Clubhouse. So I'm going to talk about uni rugby. And in a couple of hours' time, I think the Bucks semi-finals kick off. Is that right?
Yes, the Bucks Super Rugby finals are happening on Wednesday evening, Mark. The semi-finals taking place. It's Loughborough, Exeter and Hartpury Cardiff Met, which is probably the surprise semi-final. Cardiff Met beating Bath away from home last week. I had a chat with your Max about it on Monday, actually, Mark. And yeah, Bath just couldn't get it over the line. You know, they finished third in the league, so it was a bit of a shock, but absolutely fair play to Cardiff Met to reach in the semi-final. So the Loughborough Exeter should be an absolute cracker. We've seen them play each other in finals over previous years. There was one final which has been dubbed as the greatest university final ever. So if we see anything like that this evening, we should be in for another cracking university rugby contest. And it is also the women's Bucks Super Rugby semi-finals as well. We've spoken about it before in the Clubhouse, haven't we, Mark, about the dominance of Hartpury and Gloucester Hartpury, and once again they are the team to beat this time around. So yeah, plenty to look forward to, and all roads lead to Rodney Parade on I think it's April the 16th, I want to say, or April the 19th, whichever the Wednesday is. 19th, I think it is.
And you'll be there.
Yes, we will be. I was trying to work it out, Mark, when we had a bit of a chat last week, but I think it must be the 8th consecutive year we've done it. Certainly, well, I've been a part of it. I know TRU have done it for a number of years before that, but it's a fantastic day, and it's only growing and growing, given the exposure that the Bucks Super Rugby and the women's Bucks Super Rugby gets as well. But it's rather than trekking it down to London, it's over to South Wales. So hopefully this sunshine continues over the next couple of weeks.
Definitely, and we'll catch on the uni rugby scene again over coming weeks, and hopefully you'll be able to do some little videos for in the Clubhouse that show a bit of the behind the scenes at a Bucks Rugby Finals Day. Absolutely. Or a Bucks Super Rugby Finals Day. And this weekend the airwaves will be filled with Champions Cup rugby, Friday, Saturday and a Sunday. So good viewing. I sort of look at it and think to myself, come on, Sale, pull one off against Toulouse, please. But maybe that's I don't know. Is Alex Sanderson targeting the playoffs in the Gallagher Premiership, or do you think he is going after this?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think given kind of, Sale's recent wins, Mark, I'd say, look, they've got themselves in playoff contention. When the draw was made and they've got to lose, the glitz, the glamour, the Galacticos, whatever you want to say, they are the best club team in the world at the moment, aren't they? And for Sale to go over there and get a result would be one of the shocks in Champions Cup recent history, whether they don't feel all the main players, or if it is a strong side from the Sharks. But no Anton Dupont, obviously, for this one with his injury in the Six Nations, so that gives Sale a little bit more hope. But it's going to be so tough for them, isn't it, Mark? I really want them to do it. I've got a couple of mates who are flying out to the game as well.
Right.
They're making a real weekend of it. I think they're going to Perpignan on the Saturday to watch Racing 92, and then they're heading back down to Toulouse. So I really want Sale to do it for them as well.
Yeah. And then I think that's a Sunday game, isn't it? So the Saturday, yes. I can't go much further than Johnny Matthews versus Leicester. Now, I know Gregor Townsend would say, no. But for me, it's Johnny Matthews versus Leicester. And if Johnny scores 2 tries, I think Glasgow Warriors take the game against Leicester. It's going to be an attractive game, I think, but Leicester might try and grind them down. What's your thoughts on this? Or are Leicester the dark horse?
It's difficult, isn't it, Mark? I don't know what you think, but Leicester had a couple of indifferent weeks, haven't they? They went to Northampton Saints, won the derby really convincingly, and then lost a pretty crucial game for them in terms of trying to work their way into the playoffs in the Premiership against Saracens last Sunday. So it's interesting to see what mindset they take this game against Glasgow. We mentioned before we hit record, from a Glasgow point of view, I was watching the group stages, and a few of the pundits were saying, look, let's not rule out Glasgow going really deep into this competition. There is so much talk around how much the Premiership clubs really treat the European competitions now. We see, different teams selected and B teams and abbreviations that are being picked. But, Glasgow seem to really do enjoy themselves in Europe. Obviously, they won the Challenge Cup, I think, a couple of years ago. So it wouldn't surprise me if they put up in a performance. He's obviously at Glasgow as well, isn't it? So putting a performance against Leicester Tigers, and it'll just give them a bit of confidence going forward. Again, this is a side that's used to getting into big games and big moments now under Franco Smith. So, let's see what happens at the weekend. But yeah, what Glasgow definitely want to look out for.
Brilliant. And Friday night starts with I think an interesting fixture, Northampton and Clermont Auvergne at Northampton. Northampton's like one of the only grounds I've never visited. In fact, I don't really know a lot about Northampton Saints, which is my shame. And I need to definitely do some research about which universities Northampton Saints are affiliated to, which National League rugby clubs are affiliated to. But, clearly they've got some players in the England squad, and Sam Vesti, the backs coach, seems to be transforming the way Northampton play. And look, Phil Dowson, hats off to him. He's doing a great old job. So what do you think? Northampton to take the victory?
I think they've got a very good chance. They were the only team who, and I love a stat, Mark. This is me in the clubhouse on my own in the corner looking at different stats to replay to you. But I think Saints were the only side who finished top of the group in the pool stages. So they're obviously got the bit between the teeth to try and make a good fist of it. And in fairness, this year the Premiership hasn't gone their way at all. They've lost their crown really over the last few weeks, and I think they're probably out of the race for the playoffs now. I need to have a look at the table again. So why not put your eggs in the basket of trying to win a European trophy? I think the way Northampton have selected the squad over the last few weeks suggests that I think Finn Smith missed the game against Sale last week, obviously rested for this weekend against Clermont. So, but you're right, Mark. They've got a lot of very, very good individuals in the team. Finn Smith being one of them, Henry Pollock being another, who scored an absolutely unbelievable try last week against Sale. So they have got for a back row, by the way, just point out there for that execution. So they've got brilliant individuals, and if they can all be on song, as we've seen so many times over the last sort of 12 months or so, they've got every chance of going far in Europe.
He's quite some player, is this young Pollock. Was impressed with his performance for England. He's got a bit of an edge to him. He reminds me of the young Curry boys in terms of that edge. I always remember Tom Curry taking on Esterbeth, and I feel to myself, oh my goodness, this could end badly. But, you know, to be fair to Curry, he stood his ground. And I think in Pollock, there's a very similar edginess, which I like. But then, like you say, there he is on TV, chipping the ball, collecting the ball, scoring. Oh, what on earth, a back row player like that? I mean, do you know, I'm sure you'll have him on your bolters list for the Lions, but the Australian fans would love a player like that. You know, that's the Michael Hooper, that's the George Smith. You know, they love that sort of 7 back row player. So if Pollock got the chance to tour Australia, I think he'd be not just a cult hero in Northampton, but across Australia.
Yeah, you're right. He's one of those people who will get, you know, your casual rugby viewer out of their seat. I think if you're over in Australia and going, you know, I'm going to go fancy watching one of the test matches against the Wallabies, or even if it's one of the tour matches the Lions are involved in and he's playing, you're automatically going like, who's this guy? You know, is he supposed to, you know, just anyone would watch that try and go, that's an unbelievable piece of skill. And that may be something that Andy Farrell looks at and go, he's a bit of a game changer. You know, he isn't your usual, is he, back row? And I know the picture of back row is changing now. And, you know, you mentioned the Curry brothers who are so brutal, they're so destructive, aren't they? But when you've got Pollock's ability to turn over the ball, but also combine that with the speed and the balance and the execution, why wouldn't you possibly take a punt on him and get him on the plane to Australia? Look, there are so many different back row options, as we both know, Mark. So whether he gets on the plane or not, we have to wait and see. But if he isn't, I suspect he'd be heading to Argentina with England in the summer because he's going to be involved in one tour. That's absolutely certain.
Great. In the Clubhouse is available on YouTube. It's available on my Substack. It's available on Talking Rugby Union's socials. And I suspect that Chris posts on his own personal socials. So you can get access to in the Clubhouse. But let's face it, in the Clubhouse would be very difficult without access to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TNT Sports, BBC Sports, National League Rugby. But the biggest thanks is really to Talking Rugby Union, who are fiercely independent, are a team that are passionate about rugby union across the UK at all levels, and consistently identify talented rugby players and talented sports journalists. So thanks to Talking Rugby Union for giving us access to their archives, their material, and of course to Chris. But let's be very open and very transparent that without you watching us, without you commenting, this would not really work. And the fact that it is working is down to folk like yourself who are listening or watching, giving it the thumbs up, subscribing, liking, following, commenting. Great. Thank you. But it gives Chris and I an opportunity to walk across so much rugby and give a slightly different take on it. And as I say, fiercely independent. And I hope our passion for the game encourages you to get down and watch live rugby. So I'll leave the final words this week to Chris because he's totally embroiled in rugby every day of the week. So Chris, give me your closing comments and how you see the world of rugby.
I don't think I can follow that, Mark. I think you've summed it up absolutely perfectly. Yeah, got to echo your thoughts. We always say it between sort of the start of the rugby season, whether that's the start of September to the end of May, the end of June, the end of whatever it is. It's so important for you to get down to your local rugby club. Very rarely, more often than not, unfortunately, there are negative headlines around rugby, but the game's in dire straits and people are rebelling, clubs are rebelling, and players are numbers are dwindling or anything like that. And yes, they are important issues, but please try and get down to watch your local National League club, level 5 club, level 6 club, your championship, whatever it might be, because it's a fantastic afternoon out, and you can get the sense of being part of community if you do that as well. You make new friends, you might even fancy pulling on the boots, no matter if you're 18 years old or you're 68 years old, you might want to get involved that kind of way. So honestly, I've been doing it with Talking Rugby Union for the last 10 years or so, and my love for the game has grown and grown. So if it's just one visit to your local rugby club, it could be very beneficial for you. So do get down if you get the chance this weekend to watch a bit of rugby wherever you're watching in the world.
So that's us closing for today. I hope you enjoy what we're doing. And from me, it's goodbye. And from
me, Chris Eel, we'll see you next time.